In 2019, Kawhi Leonard was on top of the basketball world after winning a championship with the Toronto Raptors in his very first season there. However, Kawhi Leonard will become a free agent that offseason and ultimately decide to go with the Los Angeles Clippers. Kawhi chose the Clippers for several reasons. First, Kawhi grew up in Los Angeles and wanted to be close to his family. Second, the team was owned by billionaire Steve Ballmer, who was willing to spend money to put a formidable roster together. But the main reason Kawhi chose to go to the Clippers was their acquisition of all-star forward Paul George. The idea of teaming up with Paul George intrigued Kawhi, and all of a sudden, there was another superstar duo in Los Angeles. The Clippers officially signed Kawhi Leonard to a 3-year, $103 million contract on July 10, 2019, and they signed Paul George to a 4-year, $176 million contract the following year. And from the moment the ink hit the paper, the Clippers were the favorites to win it all.
The betting favorite to win it all next year? The Los Angeles Clippers, who are 3-1 favorites to win the title after landing Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
I would certainly put Clippers at the top of that.
Clippers 1, Lakers 2, Sixers 3, Jazz 4, Nuggets 5.
The roster was of course led by the superstar tandem, but also included veteran defensive guard Patrick Beverley, 3-time Sixth Man of the Year Lou Williams, and key role players like Montrezl Harrell and Ivica Zubac. The 2019-2020 season was going well for the Clippers. They ended up being the second seed in the West, finishing with the 49-23 record. Some notable roster additions during the season include Marcus Morris, who the Clippers traded for at the deadline, and Reggie Jackson, who they signed after he was waived by the Detroit Pistons. Kawhi Leonard won the 2020 All-Star Game MVP, and Montrezl Harrell was named the Sixth Man of the Year. Everything was going according to plan, until it wasn't. On March 11, 2020, the NBA officially suspended the season due to the COVID-19 virus.
The NBA is suspending the season.
Rudy Gobert would be the first player to test positive for the virus, and the NBA didn't want to take any chances. Finally, months later, on June 17, 2020, the NBA decided to continue the season at Walt Disney World Resort in Orlando, Florida, which was referred to as the Bubble. The Clippers competed in 8 seeding games where they went 5-3 to secure the second seed. The Clippers' first round matchup was against the Dallas Mavericks, and they advanced after taking them down in 6. Their second round matchup was the Denver Nuggets, and they immediately jumped out to a commanding 3-1 lead, and they were on their way to their first conference finals in franchise history. And then, they fell apart. The Clippers would go on to lose the next 3 games to the Nuggets and fall completely short of expectations, failing to make the conference finals, and the media absolutely let them have it.
Kawhi Leonard, that might be the biggest choke job we've ever seen in NBA history. I mean, it was that bad.
Just an absolute, flat-out, catastrophic disaster.
The Clippers just make me sick.
Yep. He just blew a 3-1 lead, and in all the games, he had a double-digit lead. If you're the best player on the planet, that cannot happen.
After a disappointing playoff run, the Clippers decided to move on from their head coach Doc Rivers on September 28, 2020. And by October 2020, the Clippers hired NBA champion head coach Tyronn Lue. That offseason, the Clippers signed Nick Batum after he was waived by the Charlotte Hornets, signed Serge Ibaka, and traded for Luke Kennard. With a new coach and new roster additions, the Clippers were ready to make another run at the title. The Clippers came into the 2020-2021 season hungry to prove the doubters wrong after a terrible collapse in the second round to the Denver Nuggets. Both Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were named as All-Stars, and the Clippers finished with a 47-25 record, which was good for 4th in the West. The 2021 playoffs began with the Clippers again facing the Dallas Mavericks, who they beat in 7. In the conference semifinals, they faced off against the Utah Jazz. The Clippers were on the verge of tying up the series, and then all of a sudden, with 5:25 left in the fourth quarter, Kawhi suffered an injury to his right leg that was later discovered to be a partially torn ACL. The Clippers went on to win Game 4 and beat the Utah Jazz in 6. The Clippers were now headed to their first conference finals in franchise history, but they were without their superstar. Their conference finals opponent was the Phoenix Suns, and although the Clippers put up a good fight, they lost to the Suns in 6. The 2021-2022 season was pretty uneventful. The Clippers were still without Kawhi since he was still recovering from his ACL injury. They ended the season with a 42-40 record, which would be the 9th seed after they lost 2 play-in games to the Timberwolves and the Pelicans and missed the playoffs entirely. Kawhi Leonard returned in the 2022-2023 season, but this season was a rocky one as the team was struggling to find a good rhythm. During the trade deadline, the Clippers upgraded their roster by acquiring Bones Highland, Eric Gordon, and Mason Plumlee, while trading away Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard, and John Wall. They also acquired superstar point guard Russell Westbrook off waivers after he was traded to the Jazz. The team finished with a 44-38 record, which was good for 5th in the West. Right before the playoffs, the Clippers took a major hit with their secondary star, Paul George, suffering a knee sprain in a March 21st matchup against the Oklahoma City Thunder. He would be unavailable in the postseason. Still, the Clippers pressed on. Their first round matchup was against the Phoenix Suns. The Clippers won Game 1, and they were looking to make it a competitive series. And then, once again, another huge hit. Kawhi Leonard suffered an injury. Kawhi Leonard would end up suffering from what would later be identified as a meniscus tear, and the Clippers would lose 4 straight to be sent home in the first round. In the 2023-2024 season, the Clippers were once again trying to compete for a championship, and they began the season with a huge swing.
Our Adrian Wojnarowski, he reported that James Harden is headed to the Los Angeles Clippers in a blockbuster trade.
The Los Angeles Clippers now had a big 3. This year, the stakes had never been higher. This was a contract year, and both Kawhi Leonard and Paul George could decide to leave if the team wasn't performing well. Also, billionaire owner Steve Ballmer was building the Clippers their own arena, finally getting them out of the Crypto.com arena, formerly known as the Staples Center, where they had been ever since they moved to LA. They needed to win. The Clippers had a hard time adjusting to James Harden's play style, and they ended up going 0-5 in the first 5 games after the Harden trade. Then, after a readjustment of the lineups, the Clippers suddenly took off. After December 1st, the Clippers went for a 26-5 record, which was the best in the league. They signed Kawhi Leonard to a 3-year, $153 million contract extension, and they went into the All-Star break with a 36-17 record. They were being called the favorites by the media once again.
The Clippers are not lacking anything. This team healthy is not only winning the West, but in my eyes is winning the entire NBA championship.
However, after the All-Star break, the team will fall flat and go 15-14 and finish the season with a 51-31 record, which was good for 4th in the West. The Clippers' first round matchup was against the Mavericks for the 3rd time during this 5-year period. Kawhi Leonard was injured once again with swelling in his knee. He attempted to play in games 2 and 3, but he was severely hampered, and the team without their star would fall to the Mavericks in 6. The Clippers had yet to give Paul George a contract extension, despite having already signed Kawhi, which left Paul George the option to become a free agent. After the Clippers failed to offer Paul George a max extension, he declined his player option and decided to enter free agency. On June 29, 2020, he will ultimately decide to sign with the Philadelphia 76ers. This was a disaster of a move, considering how much the Clippers gave up to get Paul George in 2019. Ultimately, the Clippers got Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in 2019, and they immediately had championship aspirations. But injuries and playoff failures would end up being all this team was known for. The Clippers would decide to let their second star go for nothing, and now we can definitively say that the Paul George and Kawhi era in Los Angeles was a failure. Thanks for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Until my next video, I'm out.